Welcome to The Kindness Project, the podcast designed to share stories of kindness and share how kindness can make positive change in our world, one small act at a time.
This time on The Kindness Project, double layers, last gift stand-in, and we have part two of our interview with Pradip Mistry from Lifesmistry.
Welcome, my friends, to The Kindness Project. I'm joined by a girl whose new hobby, not favourite, but new hobby, is clenching.
And I'm joined by the man who seems to be wearing two jackets.
You know what? It is late at night. We are doing this in our little home office / shed, and I've got to put the heating on before, so I had to quickly pop down and do it. So it is a bit nippy. I am wearing two jackets. It shouldn't impact the quality of the show much. It may do. I may have to take off one of the jackets halfway through the podcast, but I will certainly give you fair warning before I do that. Why are we talking about jackets on a podcast? What else have you been up to?
College.
How's it going?
It's long,
but you're getting through it, aren't you?
I'm getting there. I've got a break after next week. I've got 2 weeks off, which would be good. Woo.
Yeah.
And then after that, I've got exams. The first week I go back.
I know. So it's all go in the Dame's house. We've all got exams. We're all doing podcasting. We're all working, and it's an interesting time, isn't it? So let's move on very quickly to the question of the podcast, which this week is. You know what? I've entirely forgot. We're so where we are. Oh yeah, right. So I am building at the minute my marathon playlist, right? So and you know that I'm not the quickest runner in the world.
Yep.
The fact that I got beaten by a man with an Eiffel Tower on his head when I did the Paris Marathon tells everybody that immediately. However, what I'd like to know from you, ladies and gents, is I'm building my playlist at the minute. I've probably got about 3.5 hours. I probably need about 4.5, 5 hours of music. What should I put on my running playlist? When you exercise, what do you put on your playlist?
Well, I always just... I don't exercise. But if I were to exercise, I'd probably just use my revision playlist.
Would you? So what's in your revision playlist?
It's a bunch of songs. So like... Jennifer Flowers, Fever Dolls.
Jennifer Flowers is an amazing
Achilles Come
song.
Down, Gang of Youths.
But the thing is, for a running playlist, you need it to be upbeat, don't you? You need it to be a bit like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Achilles Come Down isn't a upbeat song, is it? It's an amazing track.
It's boom, boom, boom.
It's not boom, boom, boom. It's cry, cry, cry.
Yeah! You thought it was about spies.
Nice, isn't it?
You thought it was about spies.
Well, I thought it was a multi-layered song.
No, it's a song about...
Yeah, it's a song about suicide, isn't it? But actually,
really obvious.
quite an epic, amazing track. And the one that I'm listening to at the minute, which is not related to, and it won't be going on my running playlist, but is on my 2021 playlist, is a song called Alfred Benson by Elijah Miller. And it's this amazing bittersweet love song that I really like about unrequited love.
Aww.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Have you listened to it yet?
No.
I did WhatsApp you earlier on saying you need to check this out.
You did, but I was in lesson.
Oh, okay. Maybe,
so I just opened it and then
maybe I
decided not to read it because I was busy.
Maybe I shouldn't disturb you with musical recommendations while you're in school. Or gifts. Because you love a gift, don't you?
Oh, we had a gift for over the weekend. I won.
How do you decide who's won a gift for?
Whoever gives up first.
What?
Yeah.
What, last gift standing? Is that how you decide a gift for?
Yeah, that's
I'm not convinced that's the case. I'm sure it's like you get an independent referee to decide who's the best giffer.
No.
Is that a word, giffer?
No. No.
Okay, all right. Anyway, where can people send in their running songs for me to add to my marathon playlist then?
Okay. Well, we have a Facebook, and if you type The Kindness Project into the Facebook search bar, it will just come up, which is always good. If you go to Twitter and you put @OlaKindness, we'll come up then too. If you type into your Google search engine bar thingy, and you type The Kindness Project, we will probably come up, but if not, the website is www.thekindnessproject.co.uk. you want to email us, we're ola@thekindnessproject.co.uk, and I don't think we had to disconnect. We had to decontinue MySpace and Friends Reunited.
MySpace still exists.
Yeah,
it does still exist, but I don't think many people check it.
No.
Can I just say, thank you for making me whatever you call that cup, because I've just tried that. Coffee? Was it coffee?
It was coffee.
And two of my teeth fell out. I mean, I don't know how many sugars you put in it, but...
2, like I always do.
2 what?
Sweetness.
Truckfuls? I mean, that is the sweetest coffee I've had in a long time. Anyway, yeah, get in touch, ladies and gents. Please do, with your running tracks that we can mention on the show. And on that note, we're going to head... Because have you got any kindness news this week?
No.
Okay, so we're going to head directly to the interview. And in this week's interview, we've got part 2 with Pradip Mistry. Pradip is a coach. We talk all things coaching, all things giving back to society. You know, what do we do in our lives to support others? And Pradip shares his amazing insights into life, the universe, and everything. Should we listen to the rest of the show?
Yup.
How important? I mean, I know you do. You mentioned your hiking and sort of being in a situation where you set yourself challenges. Talk to me about some of the challenges you've done, because I know you do a decent amount of fundraising, don't you? Tell me about that.
I do. I mentioned earlier growing up in the open countryside, even in the UK, and I loved walking. I loved being in nature, and walking is my regular, because around here in our area we've got lovely landscape. We've got the river.
County parks are amazing, aren't they?
We've got the marsh here, for goodness sake. And you just take a stroll in it, and what it does is it takes off all the stress and strain out of your daily life, the pressure, because it gets you to focus on something else that's natural.
It's really interesting. I read a book a few weeks ago now about happiness, and one of the bases of that is just spending time in nature. Now, that was interesting for me, because I consider myself a bit of a city boy. I love London and I love spending time in the sort of bright lights and big city. But I actually, especially as I've got a little bit older, I found myself hankering for just spending a little bit more time in a green space. And where we are in the world, just outside of London, we've got the best of both worlds, because we can get into town quite easily, but there's loads of amazing green space, as you say, that you can potentially walk in, running. I run in it, but walking, hiking, or running. But
we have lovely historical places here. In fact, where I live, we have a nature reserve.
Okay.
And usually when we have young visitors, I normally take them there. And nowadays, children tend to be very preoccupied with gadgets and things like that, which is fine. That's part of what they're growing up with. But what you've just said is the benefit of being out. So usually I encourage them to, let's go and walk. And this nature reserve has got white cliffs. And usually I ask them, what do you think that is? And they say, well, it's just sand, white sand or something. And I said, no, that's actually chalk.
Yeah.
And when you explore how chalk is made, it's made out of compressed dead dinosaur bones.
Yeah.
So what that rings to mind is that is a Jurassic Park. Where dinosaurs used to roam in our neck of the woods here in Essex.
Yeah.
And then they think, wow, they've been to a real place. Because most of us have seen Jurassic Park movies, and you see these huge dinosaurs. But to try and imagine that they used to walk on these lands here many millions of years ago.
I mean, you say that. It's funny, because as you know, my daughter I host the podcast with is 16, but my younger daughter is 8, and she's mad for dinosaurs at the minute. So last week I took her to the Natural History Museum, and I mean, not only is that an amazing piece of architecture, as a building, it's incredible, but a lot of the exhibitions in there are mind blowing. They're the best in the world in terms of sort of dinosaurs. So we did that. But the weird thing is, Sunday we went out, so Sophie got a new bike for her birthday, and we did something as simple as go out on I was running, Sophie was on her bike, and we went to feed the ducks. And every day she said, when are we going next? When are we going next? And it's that simple stuff sometimes you lose sight of the importance of, especially as you say, if you're leading quite busy lives, you just lose the importance of just time together, time together doing something really simple.
A family time together to connect with people without distractions.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes, technology is amazing, but sometimes it gets in the way of that connection, doesn't it?
It gets in the way of our personal growth because we are, as human beings, we have not changed how we grow in millenniums. But we have tried to evolve, but physiologically and mentally we are still the same model of a human being. And we still need stimulation, external stimulations. What we've sort of growing up with is a society of convenience. Everything is at hand, everything is fulfilled as at yesterday, and we don't have the patience for things to take place naturally. But like you explained, Chris, is when you go out into nature, you see things are happening naturally. We don't have an interference in it. You see seasons changing, you see the trees changing, flowers coming, you see birds migrating. All these are not influenced by us. It's nature playing here. And I like to call it a sort of a stage of life, or live stage. You've got all these wonderful stage droppings, the scenery, the skies are evolving, you see animals in there, and it's better than being on the screen. You see it there, you can feel it, you can see it, you can hear it, and that is stimulating, because what it does as a natural being ourselves, we are part of nature. We grow up in the same way. We are here for a purpose, we fulfill our purpose, and we are gone. When you connect with nature, you feel a lot more closer to yourself. And you get to learn a lot about yourself.
In terms of your challenges, what one are you most proud of, and what one's coming next that you're looking forward to?
My challenges was an extension of my passion for walking. Because I work with Age UK, we have loads of opportunities to do fundraising, from knitting to buckets at Christmas time. And that was part of the journey. One of my volunteer coordinators, she said, look, we're thinking something bigger. And she heard that, I like walking, so she said, right, you're coming with me. And I said, why, where are we going? I thought it might be just going to local supermarket to collect donations in a bucket. She said, no, a little bit bigger than that. So I said, okay, I'm game. So she said, right, you're coming to Himalayas with me. And I said, what?
That's quite a step up from raising money at the supermarket with a bucket, isn't it?
Oh, big scale. But you see, the beauty of that was that I didn't hesitate, because I was up for the challenge. I didn't have to think too much about it. If I had any issues or phobias or concerns, I would have probably dropped it there. But my journey to climb the Himalayas started when I signed on the dotted line saying I am going.
You made the commitment then, haven't you?
Commitment is so important. Otherwise, if you don't have that commitment, it just disappears. And the journey started, it took over my mind and body. If I didn't go out for practice training, then my legs and my body would start aching. As soon as I put my boots on, my waterproofs on, I was out on the road and I was feeling in a really good place. And also, we are used to walking on tarmacs and hard surfaces. I made an effort to walk on uneven surfaces.
See, I made this mistake a few years ago. So I did a few years ago now, probably about 5 years ago, I reckon. I did a 100-kilometre walk. And I'm taking this super seriously, Pradip, so I'm training for it. I used to leave the house, walk to Westminster, so walk all the way into town, and then just walk back. And I did that a few times, like in the early days. But what I didn't realise, I should have done really, was that the entire expedition was in Yorkshire. And as you know, Yorkshire's a little less flat than London. So I hadn't done any like sort of, and it's quite difficult to do in London, isn't it, to get up to those like ups and downs. So it was funny, the 100 kilometres finished, I did it in about 26 hours. So I was like, it wasn't quick, but I did complete it. But that was a big lesson learned. When you're doing training, make sure you're trying to do it in the altitudes that you're going to be walking
terrain.
at. Yeah.
This is one of the things that I really was passionate about, is to find different patches of ground. Over here.
So where did you go? Where did you go to train for the Himalayas? I mean, it's difficult to do, isn't it?
I got to explore Essex more.
Okay.
I went to the Hadley Olympic mountain bike track. And that was quite hilly. Now, just to imagine riding a bike on those steep cliff faces is frightening. And you have to climb that and climb down that. But that gives you that balance and, challenge to take in. So it's not frightening. I went training as far as New Forest.
Okay.
And New Forest has got clear paths. But what I did was just walk anywhere through the open area, through the field, so you don't really know what's underneath. And because as human beings we are so resilient, whatever's underneath, without seeing, your body will actually compensate for it. So the experience was, I didn't trip, fall or sprain my ankles because my body was so resilient, it just adjusted.
And how long did it take to climb the Himalayas?
We went on a 10-day trek, but 6 of that days was actually constant walking. From 7 o'clock in the morning till about 5 to 6 o'clock in the evening. We did stop along the way as well.
How many of you went?
There was about 5 of us from Age UK Essex, and about six of us from other charities. And we only met each other when we were at the airport, because we had a distinct flag or a label on our bags. And each one of them turned out to be from different backgrounds, different physical fitness, different mental attitude, but we had a common goal. And that in itself brought us together to experience it together.
I love it. Absolutely love it. So before we ask you where we can find out a little bit more about you, what we do every week on the Kindness Project is we ask people a question. We call it the question of the podcast. So what I'm going to do is just throw in some questions for you that we ask all of our interviewees about what they do. So let's start with one of our favourites. If you were a character from one of your favourite books, who would you be?
Books, I would say a role model. Sir Edmund Hillary. The first man on the Himalayas.
So you'd pick an explorer. You'd pick somebody real as well. You wouldn't pick somebody fictional.
Absolutely. Now, the challenge I went through is probably nowhere near what he had to go through, because today we are well equipped with the waterproofs, the right type of boots, and the support when you're going up. But he had to organize everything himself, physically, mentally, having to carry these things, and he was going through uncharted territories, not knowing what to expect.
Okay, great answer. You're on the final of the Great British Bake Off. It's the showstopper. It's the cake you've got to bake to win. What are you baking?
Oh, I love cakes with colour. And one of my favourite colour is red. So you can imagine a red velvet.
So you're going to go for a red... I like the look of a red velvet. I'm not sure... I like the taste of a red velvet. It's a weird one, but I like that.
It's actually just a colour, but otherwise it's like ordinary baking ingredients.
Is it really?
Unless
I thought
there's
a different taste
in there.
All right,
I don't know. I just love eating.
What's the world's best detective?
I think
fictional, real, dead or alive. You can have either.
Detectives-wise, I'd like to extend it to explorers. Because they're exploring uncharted areas, and in Britain we had some really nice explorers. And in continent as well, we had Vasco da Gama, and the guy who found America. And all these people were explorers. And what I like about it is that they were looking at something beyond their imagination or comprehension.
Okay.
Now, just imagine if you're on the high seas and there is absolutely nothing there and you don't know how far it stretches, but you have a faith and a challenge to go for it until you land to another shore. And I think life is like that. Sometimes we like to see what's on the horizon, but we don't go beyond what's on the horizon.
Okay.
And for certainly Marco Polo, he discovered different lands, but he had to go through this mental focus that there's nothing there. This is from the days when people used to think, oh, when you go to the edge of the water, you'll fall off.
Yeah.
But then it opened up a new world.
I'm not convinced Marco Polo counts as a detective, but we'll give you that one. What's your guilty pleasure?
Oh, guilty pleasure. Oh, there's many. I love food.
Okay.
And food, I'm a moderate eater, but I'm very adventurous. I like to explore different types. And that comes from my journeys overseas to different cultures, different types of food. And this is something that I enjoy even here, because in England, even in our neighborhood, we've got so many varieties of different types of food. All you have to do is decide on and be a bit adventurous and try something different.
Yeah.
And this is what I love about it, from Italians to Chinese, Cantonese. Yeah. And we get so much, especially in central London, we've got world-renowned places for so many different. And also, there are new places opening up with new types of invention. And I think food is my sort of downfall, but I do work it off as well. So I'm fit enough to go and explore something else next time.
And it sounds like you've got a bit of a sweet tooth as well. Is that right?
I have. I love certain... Well, actually, sweet tooth is puddings. From the days from the schools, I used to love my different types of puddings with custard. And I think that's part of this, part of a love for cakes as well.
And what makes you most proud about your family?
I think it's probably maybe some level of support I've given them and encouraged them to do things in life. And not just by telling them, but showing by example, walking the talk.
Being a role model, isn't it?
Being the role model and show them how it's done as well.
So important.
As parents, we tend to tell children what to do. And they're struggling to comprehend what is it we're meant to do. But without the experience...
Well, especially if there's a mixed message as well. I think you're right. I think part of our responsibility as parents is to practice what we preach, because otherwise you're saying one thing and doing another. But that's difficult as a parent to do sometimes. So
it can, because we have our own understanding and our own take on the issue. So with the children is to encourage them to explore and experience it themselves in their own way. And from that, they will actually start running with it and then see how it works. Because, we all care for our children. We want the best for them, but sometimes we bring our own values into it without allowing them,
and our own biases and our own quirks and nuances and everything else. So I think you're right.
It is. Simple example is when you were talking about Sophie and going cycling. When you first teach them how to ride bicycle, okay, you can tell them how to ride a bicycle, but they will not be able to ride a bicycle by just listening to mommy or daddy.
No.
They have to actually sit on a bike and do something. And it'll take a little time before they strike a balance. And that is their own creation. They've been able to achieve that. Not because mommy and daddy said you have to ride a bike and, this is the way to do it. And I think that's what life is about. You give them that opportunity to experience it and build from there.
I'll tell you what's interesting though, and again, part of what I've learned from this conversation is you assume that learning process stops at 16 or whatever, and in reality we need to relearn stuff throughout our lives each and every day, particularly when we get older, when we need to potentially just relearn something as simple as how do I get out of the door and what help do I need to do that. And I think that the perception of I'm in my 70s now, I shouldn't ask for help. We need to get over as a society, because you should be putting your hand up and saying, look, just spend some time with me and guide me through it. I think that process of relearning about our lives throughout our lives is an important one.
Chris, that is so important, and I see that through my clients because as we grow older, we have this issue about asking.
Yeah.
And
particularly if you, as you said, if you're seen as somebody who's successful or talented, and actually the reason they got there is because they asked for help, right?
Absolutely, and I do a talk on this very subject, the lost art of asking.
Okay.
And it stems back in reality to your own life experiences, that when you're young, when you need something, you ask.
Yeah.
And usually you get. But as you start getting older, you have an issue that, I'm too old for asking. And that stretches throughout your life.
Yeah,
which is when you're at a time when you're vulnerable, when you need support, that's if you carry that attitude that it's wrong to ask, or it compromises your credibility or integrity as an independent person, but accepting that it is not wrong to ask. You ask when you've used up all your resources first, and then you get stuck. That's when to ask. You don't sort of go and ask any old time, because you're not really exercising your independence. So as you grow older, it's so important to be able to ask and reach out, and you'll be amazed the support you get, because everybody in their life will have gone through things and they will have had help, and those people who are up ahead of you, they know what it's like to be where you are. So all you need to do is ask, and they'll be more than happy to help.
I agree, absolutely agree. Where can people find out a little bit more about you?
I do a lot of presence. I do talks, so that's where you can hear me on stage.
Okay.
I'm also available online. I've got my own website. It's www.lifesmistry.co.uk.
And we're going to put that in the show notes as well, so everybody can find it.
Absolutely. Or give me a call, and we can have a lovely chat about where you are and where you like to be, or what is it that your challenges are at this present moment.
Amazing. Sorry, go on.
Yes, I'm just saying you're not on your own. All you have to do is ask and reach out, and you'll be amazed. Your world will just open up into a different thing that you can't imagine.
So that's the moral of today's interview. Make sure if you need some help, or you're feeling lonely, or you're feeling lost, just ask. Thank you, Pradip. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and thank you very much for the opportunity, Chris.
So what did you think of Pradip's interview?
It was good. It was good.
It was good. And on that note, would you like to do the honours?
Yes, well, tis the end of another podcast. I need to get that at the bottom of the mug.
Yeah. Sorry?
At the bottom of the mug, so when you finish drinking, you...
Yes, I like that.
We talked about it before.
And you know we should put tease the end. Tease the end?
No. What if I want to put coffee in it, or hot chocolate, or warm blackcurrant?
If you can call what you've just made me coffee or tar, I don't know. Right, so let's talk about last week's question of the podcast, which was let's think about this, which was, what are you curious about? And we had some funny answers, some contemplative answers, and we had answers across the board. So Dan Atkinson said, having recently read Morgan Housel's book, The Psychology of Money, the thing I've been ruminating on is what is the answer to what is enough?
It depends on person, doesn't it?
Depends on person. How about you? What's enough for you?
It depends on the time, on what I need to get done, on what needs to be
But this is the interesting question on that, right? Is enough based on your own expectations?
Yes, obviously.
Obviously, but is there an argument to say, to be happier, sometimes we should set lower expectations?
Yeah, that could work.
Yeah, I'm a believer of doing what your potential allows you to do, and that means setting your expectations higher. But I think sometimes good enough is enough, isn't it?
Yep.
And
your coffee is definitely good enough.
47 sugars isn't good enough.
2.
Are you paying my dentist bill or what? So thanks, Dan. You've got us wondering, and I think it is a interesting question. Is good enough? And what does satisfied or content look like? You know, should we always be? What have I gotten too philosophical for you?
No. You said satisfied, and I started thinking about Hamilton.
Yeah, natural reaction. And then we've gone from a really sort of interesting. I was going to say physiological, but that's not. Philosophical debate about satisfaction and expectation to Steve Dan just saying, working from home, the question I'm always asking myself is, what day is it again?
Well, for us, it's Monday. For you, if you're listening to this...
It's Thursday.
It's Thursday. But if you're listening to this any other day, I would check the calendar on your phone.
Yeah, thanks for that practical tip to work out what day it is. John Cook has gone more philosophical again. Can I do more in relation to many things? Hazel Grace, just the question she's always curious about is it gin o'clock yet?
It is always gin o'clock somewhere, Hazel.
And Steve Chilton said, is it the weekend yet?
No.
Nick Ramsden, it's not yet. No, or it may be, depending on when you're listening to
Yeah, but for us it's Monday, so we have to wait another, 5 days?
Nick Ramsden is wondering, and something a lot of us have been wondering over the past year, am I on mute?
I'm always on mute. I don't like talking to my class.
Do you not?
No.
So you do it, but you do it on like WhatsApp, or you just use the chat function?
Oh, we chat on Snapchat.
Yeah.
Or in the group chat, but that's only for maths. And if we do breakout rooms, I put my mic on, but otherwise, like...
Breakout room.
Oh, God.
Anyway, Russ said, I am curious about Flutter Dart at the moment, in particular deep machine learning elements of Flutter. I'm curious about what the blinking does that mean? Do you know what Flutter rooms are?
Heck if I know.
No, Flutter Dart.
Heck
Do you reckon he's just had a weird dream and he's just woke up saying Flutter Dart?
Ooh.
Don't know. So, Russ, you need to, our esteemed producer, you need to educate us on what Flutter Dart is. That'd be interesting. And Alan Bowley simply said, why is it Monday again?
I ask myself that question every Monday.
And Tuesday. Anyway, my friends, thank you for listening to the podcast. We'll see you next week. Have a lovely week, and we'll speak to you soon.
Bye.